You chase her, and she pulls away. You send a message, she sees it but doesn't reply. And the more you try, the colder, more distant, and indifferent she becomes. But what if I told you the mistake lies exactly in trying? That the secret isn't doing more, but doing differently? Here's the brutal truth. The more you chase, the more she loses respect. And the more you give yourself away without boundaries, the further you drift from your masculine essence. What no one tells you is that being ignored is actually a hidden gift, an invitation to become unshakable. What she doesn't expect is your Stoic version. The man who responds to indifference with elegance, who doesn't beg, doesn't fall apart, doesn't seek attention, but instead rebuilds himself in silence. In this video, you'll discover how to turn her coldness into the fire that will forge your new identity. This isn't a game. It's wisdom. It's purpose. It's the new you. If you're tired of chasing and feeling smaller every time, this video will flip the switch. Because what comes next isn't advice, it's philosophy in action. Lesson 1. Never chase someone who ignores you. Step back with presence. When a woman ignores you, the biggest mistake is reacting in desperation. Sending a message asking what happened, insisting on a conversation, offering explanations, or trying to save something that was never truly offered to begin with. This kind of reaction is just neediness disguised as goodwill. A man guided by unshakable self-confidence understands that being ignored is, above all, an invitation to silence, not a signal for urgency. Your response should come from a place of strength, not weakness. The right response? Strategic withdrawal. That means stepping back with presence, not with fear. It's distancing yourself without drama, while holding firm to your masculine presence. A man rooted in self-sufficiency doesn't need to be seen to exist. He exists because he is. That alone disarms the female psychological game. She expected whining, a bruised ego, and emotional chaos. But what she finds is an empty space, full of power. And that changes everything. You shouldn't pretend to be okay. You should actually be okay. And that takes practice. Use this moment to come back to yourself. Care for your body, train. Strengthen your mind, read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Sharpen your focus, set real goals for the next 7 days. That's what we call conscious detachment. You let go, not out of coldness, but from clarity. And when you move from that place, your energy shifts, and so does how people perceive you. Lesson 2. Your silence must echo louder than your words. There's a kind of silence that weighs heavy, not empty, but full. Full of presence, of self-respect, of unshakable self-confidence. Most men don't understand this. They think that staying quiet means losing ground. But in truth, that silence, when used wisely, becomes power. This isn't about sulking or pouting. It's about showing that your time and energy aren't available for emotional games. Your silence is your boundary. This is the moment when a man stops being predictable and becomes mysterious. While others beg for a response, you pull back in strategic indifference. And that contrast is what catches her attention. The woman who once ignored you begins to wonder, why didn't he react? Why does he seem completely fine? That's when your silence stops being an absence and becomes a message. And that message hits harder than any needy text. This isn't a trick. It's dominant posture. It's a man who knows his worth and doesn't trade his dignity for crumbs of attention. He understands that not everything must be said, because sometimes silence is the loudest scream. But only when it comes from emotional self-mastery. Well-placed silence is an art, and like any art, it requires intention. This isn't about avoiding the conversation. It's about refusing to engage in shallow interactions. So how do you apply this? Simple. Stop explaining your absence. You don't need to tell her you're pulling away. Just go. Let the space speak for itself. In the meantime, return to what builds you. Read, train, think strategically. Pick Up the Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It'll teach you how to turn any emotional block into fuel. That's conscious detachment. You're not forcing anything, you're flowing. And she'll notice. Even if she pretends not to, she will. Because no silence is more deafening than the one coming from a man who used to be present, and now is gone without bitterness. That's called emotional maturity. It's a silent answer to the female test she threw at you. If she expected drama, but found serenity, everything shifts. Want to amplify the effect? Work on your image. Not for her, for yourself. Improve your posture, your body language, your gaze. Show that your world didn't stop. Show that you're more whole than ever. That's how you embody true masculine presence. Because when a man is at peace with himself, he has nothing to prove. He simply lives. And that quiet power changes how the world and women see you. And slowly you'll notice, some come back, others disappear. But the real reward isn't who returns. It's who you became in the process. Silence didn't shrink you. It refined you. And now, with that new awareness, you begin to understand. Internal validation is more solid than any external praise. And that prepares you for a lesson most men don't even know they need. Lesson 3. She expected weakness but found a wall. When a woman ignores you, she's usually expecting a predictable reaction. Jealousy, insecurity, desperate questions. She's betting you'll lose control, or at least try to understand what went wrong. But what completely disarms that strategy is when, instead of finding a fragile, anxious man, she comes face to face with someone armored from within. A man who responds with self-sufficiency, not whining. Someone who doesn't lose sleep over absence, because he's busy building inner peace. That breaks the pattern. Most men fall right into the trap, sending passive-aggressive messages, throwing out indirect jabs, or trying to provoke a reaction. But the Stoic man sees that for what it is, emotional sabotage. And he knows that tearing down his own castle just to be noticed is never worth it. He maintains his dominant posture, even in silence. He doesn't disappear, he simply withdraws with elegance. And that, ironically, is what truly scares her, a man who doesn't need her for validation. That's the strength of solid masculine presence. A woman can feel when she's dealing with someone who won't fall apart just because she changed her mood. And what started as a test, a power move, turns into a revelation. This man can't be manipulated. He moves with stoic reaction, speaks with calm, acts with emotional intelligence. And most of all, he keeps his focus on himself. And if she comes back, testing again, and yes, she will, you no longer respond the same way. You don't chase, and you definitely don't preach. You give the minimum. Only what's essential. That's direct communication, no begging, no over-explaining. And if she keeps trying to measure your interest, you simply pull back again. Because a man with emotional self-mastery doesn't respond to manipulation with emotion. He observes, evaluates, and acts with logic. The best way to stay in that frame. Build your own code of conduct. A rule book. For example, if I get ignored twice, I pull back in silence, indefinitely. That becomes part of your inner system. A system built on self-respect, one that no one can cross without consequences. That's not being cold. That's being mature. And maturity in this realm is rarer than beauty. As this process unfolds, you become less accessible. And that sparks what we call attraction through contrast. She's used to men begging, but now she's met one who vanishes in silence and doesn't even ask for an explanation. That's strange to her. And what's strange becomes intriguing. And what's intriguing draws her in. That's the core of masculine unpredictability. You never react the way she expects. You surprise her with calm. And here's the twist. Sometimes she even comes back stronger. But by then, you don't feel the same. Because in the process of protecting yourself, you also evolved. You became stronger, sharper, whole. And when you look at her again, you realize the game no longer interests you. Silence didn't isolate you. It healed you. And now it's time to learn something even more valuable. How to turn this newfound strength into purpose. Lesson 4. While she waits for a reaction, rebuild yourself in silence. There comes a moment when everything becomes clear. She wasn't looking for a response. She was looking to provoke one. Maybe she wanted to trigger insecurity. Maybe she expected you to chase. But when you respond with strategic indifference, she gets confused. And in that confusion, your true power is born. You don't yell. You don't beg. You don't make speeches. You simply go silent and start rebuilding. Most men stay trapped in the cycle of emotional dependency, always trying to figure out what went wrong, as if the answer is buried in her behavior. But a man who lives with internal validation understands the truth. The key isn't in her, it's in him. While she pulls away, he dives inward. He realigns his routine, sharpens his environment, and builds new habits. That's the heart of conscious detachment, not the absence of love, but the choice to put yourself first. And during this phase, action matters. Real, practical action. Start by reshaping your surroundings. Organize your space, your schedule, your energy. That alone sends a clear signal to your mind. I'm in control now. Read 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, especially the chapter, Clean Your Room. It seems small, but it sets the foundation for something greater. High-value energy in motion. She's watching. Maybe she pretends not to, but she senses it, because the man who was once available has vanished. And the man who reappears is someone else. Stronger, aligned, more selective. That's the weight of a restructured masculine presence. The silence she once offered you now becomes a void that haunts her. Not out of spite, out of evolution. And evolution silences the ego that once played with your attention. You begin to stand out without saying a word, because your silent assertiveness says more than 1,000 explanations. She realizes she's no longer dealing with a regular man. She's facing someone whose power is no longer reactive, but internal. And that disrupts anyone who thought they had control over you. The game shifts, but you no longer play it. You're building something greater, and that is far more attractive. Keep going. Do something every day that challenges you. Wake up earlier, train without skipping, study without excuses. Don't post it. Don't announce it. Let your discipline speak in direct communication with your transformation. And when doubt creeps in, and it will, remember this. What you're building now is worth far more than any attention that lacks clarity. This is where the shift happens. Silence becomes power. Absence becomes armor. Growth becomes inevitable. And when this settles in, you're not just ready to deal with feminine disinterest. You've transcended it. But then a new question emerges. What do you do when she tries to come back? Lesson 5, and perhaps the most important, when she comes back, don't be in the same place. What most men secretly hope for is that after the silence, she'll return. And sometimes she does. But the fatal mistake is welcoming her back as if nothing happened. As if she didn't test your limits. As if her indifference meant nothing. A man with emotional maturity doesn't forget easily. Not out of bitterness, but out of awareness. He understands, if she ignored you once, she can do it again. And the best answer isn't revenge. It's simply showing her, I'm no longer where you left me. She'll feel it in the details, your firmer gaze, your slower replies, your more direct tone. That's direct communication with posture. You don't need to be cold. You just need to be clear. I'm good. Living my life. That sentence, said without drama or proof, says more than any speech. Because it reflects self-sufficiency. And that kind of man, she doesn't find often. When you show you've rebuilt yourself in silence, she realizes she lost something rare. A man with true masculine presence. And in that moment, the roles reverse. You're no longer the one hoping to be chosen. You choose. And if you decide she no longer belongs in your world, that's not rejection, it's self-respect. You don't reinvest in what once didn't know your value. Of course, context matters. Sometimes, her return comes with genuine regret. And then it's up to you, based on your internal validation, to decide if it's worth opening the door again. But one thing is clear, never give in out of loneliness. If you choose, let it be for alignment. That's refined conscious detachment. The freedom of not needing, even if you could have. She'll feel that filter. And for many women, that's unbearable. Because what they really wanted was the old version of you. The man who accepted crumbs, who confused attention with genuine interest. But now, faced with a man grounded in unshakable self-confidence and stoic reaction, the power slips away, and the female psychological game crumbles. Because you're not playing anymore. You're living at a higher level. Want to know if you're still stuck in the old dynamic? Picture yourself seeing her again. What do you feel? Anxiety? A need to prove something? If so, go back within. There's still healing to do. But if you observe her with serenity, with no rush or emotional pull, then you've arrived. You've reached the place where masculine unpredictability meets inner peace. And now, you finally understand. The silence was only the beginning. Because the final lesson isn't about her. It's about you, who you became on this path. And when the door from the past knocks again, maybe it's time to open a new one. One that only those who truly value your presence get to walk through. The kind of presence that doesn't fold, doesn't beg, and never repeats lessons already taught. You no longer need to panic when you're ignored. Now, you know exactly what to do. Step back with presence. Grow in silence. Respond with strength, not noise. It's all in your hands now, and no one can take from you what's rooted in your core. So here's the question. Will you keep begging for attention, or will you become the man she'll never be able to ignore again? Now I want to hear from you. Which of these lessons hit you the hardest? Which one do you need to apply today? Drop it in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you've made it to the end of this video, right? My reaction will be the silence that transforms. So I know you're one of the men of value who stays until the final second. Thank you so much for watching, truly. If this message spoke to you, like the video and share it with a brother who needs to hear this. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss what comes next. I also invite you to dive even deeper into the rest of the channel's content. Every video here was crafted to prepare you emotionally for the real dynamics of modern relationships, grounded in Stoic philosophy, which teaches a man how to love without losing himself, how to give without becoming invisible, and how to walk away with dignity when needed. Real connection starts within, and Stoicism is the compass that guides this journey. Keep watching, keep evolving. Together, we'll turn ordinary men into Stoic men, inside and out.